Hello.
Hello.
Morning.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Oh, I'm so tired. Life. Back-to-back meetings today, plus I gotta help my mom with she's got some person coming over to help her with stuff. I need to make sure she's introduced and is comfortable with her. Anyway, enough of my life. How's everybody else?
Living, breathing.
These are good states to be in.
Yep. Hello, Sandeep.
Hi, Sandeep.
Jonathan, Alex. I hope I'm not in the wrong time.
Nope, you're good. We're
Hiya,
going to give
hiya.
it just a few minutes here.
Everybody doing well?
Sunday, the time changed, so some meetings are just 1 hour earlier late for me.
Oh,
Yes, it's been a long week that way.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi,
Lucas.
Lucas.
Hi, Pedro.
Hey, Sandeep, Alex, Johnny.
Hello, hello.
Anyone doing anything crazy for the weekend?
I'm going for like the local digital nomad hub book club.
Oh, cool.
It's a nice place here. It's like yesterday I was in a backpackers village and there was like 40 people there. And I talked to some guys and one of them was, "Oh, I'm building a startup using Flutter, and I hope I can maybe like publish it in the Google Apps." And I told him, "Yeah, but I don't have to do this because I have Catalyst. I can, instead of like building it on my own, and I can just submit it to Catalyst. If Catalyst funds it, it's a good business idea. I don't have to waste time." And he was like, "Oh, wow, that's very smart."
Adam, that's the best one.
Hello.
Hi, Rory.
1,
Adam,
2, 3,
Ace first.
4, 5, 6. We're at 6. We're missing 4.
Hey,
I think they're all confirmed.
Hello
too.
from Lisbon.
let's see if my Wi-Fi will actually work. My router box is on its last leg of life right now. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
I've just noticed that 2 of the 3 bulbs above my head are out and I need to replace them. And what I'm actually doing is just highlighting the mess in the background. That's nice.
It looks like you lit it up for artistic purposes though, so just
Yeah,
don't tell
man.
anybody and you're good.
It's like it's an exhibition mess, you know. It's a charge fee to come in and look at it and consider the implications of the human condition. Makes you feel better. I've done 4 Cardano 360s with all my laundry laid out on my bed. So love it.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I know we're still missing a few people, but I'm sure they'll pop in and we'll get to business by that time. But welcome to the Open Source Committee meeting for Halloween, Thursday, October 31st, 2024. We did not get to too much of any agenda building this week. Just basically a lot of back and forth post-elections, getting the onboarding sessions done for everybody. And the onboarding is actually what we're going to focus on here today. And then for our committee members or committee seats, we're also going to do an overview of some of the things that we have in the pipeline that we're looking for you to review. So there'll be a couple of documents async, and then I believe Christian has something else that's going to be kind of like the main piece after onboarding for us to look at. But as far as the journey of events for today, onboarding presentation, chair selection, if you will. We'd love to get that done in the same meeting if we can. If that needs to go async, we will. But that would need to be done within a week or less. So I'm not forcing or pushing anybody on that, but we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more and just see what everyone's agreement is or understanding is, and we'll go from there. Any questions before we get started? Adam gets starting us off. Perfect. If y'all can drop in your affiliations or conflict of interest, anything of that nature down here, that's something that does go on to the meeting minutes, and just clarity and transparency for everybody. Okay.
Is that
So-
everybody needs to do that, or just people who want to go for chair?
No, just
people on
those
the
that are
committee.
seats on the committee. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just name if you want to include title and company affiliations.
All righty. That being said, welcome to the Open Source Committee. For those that are newly joining, Adam, welcome back as an official elected representative. And for those that did not get this presentation in our off-cycle election, you can also get to enjoy in some of what we'll share here. Some of this you may have already seen. But congratulations and welcome. At Intersect, we wanted to share and just show the 5 pillars here once again. So we are focused on supporting the community, enhancing the community-led governance that's implemented by SIP 1694. We have a big role in orchestrating the delivery, or rather how the Cardano technical roadmap is delivered in an open source nature. We're facilitating the continuity of Cardano for the stability of the system. And of course, our primary tenet here in open source is the development of the core technologies. Yes, there you go. Hang on just a second. Sorry, the question was to share a link to the presentation, and let me just grab that real quick. There we go. Thank you, Dan. All right. So this is the mission statement that we have currently on the open source Gitbook page. So the open source committee generates an open source strategy for Cardano to follow, advise on and promote open source activities across the ecosystem, and be a rallying point for members to get advice on building in an open source environment. Now, if this is at all too brief or anything, we have the opportunity to look at changing this. That will be part of the charter conversation. That's the word I was trying to get to earlier, that Christian will lead with us a little bit later. As far as the operating model, of course, we have the governing board that sits atop that. In between, from the general onboarding, you may have seen where we have the Intersect steering committee as another layer in between the governing board and the remaining committees there. Basically, what we have is we have community impact at the governing board. We have community impact at the Intersect steering level. And then, of course, this channel is open. This committee meeting is open to the community here. And there's also a discussion point that we'll ask a little bit later on whether or not everyone is in agreement, or rather is okay to have these posted up on YouTube. We do have these recordings, but there has been a request that that might be a benefit for us to share that further that way, and we get some more use on the channel as well. There wouldn't necessarily be much editing here. These are already set to auto record. So once we get in, we'll talk about what we're talking about. And again, if we ever need to, we can pull back and have a private meeting like we did. I don't think it was last week, but maybe the week before. So we still have the autonomy to make those decisions, but that is a potential future state for this committee. As far as the execution layer, this goes into the actual operations of Cardano, so the technical suppliers that are actually writing and developing the code. And then this also comes into Intersect operations on how all of that is being communicated and facilitated in terms of management, meetings, all of those different places. So when we get to more of the budget conversation as that develops, Intersect will be facilitating a lot of that as part of the Treasury withdrawal that'll come through the procurement at Intersect and administered through Intersect's procurement, but via myself as the open source office, as the open source committee secretary here. So just some brief connections, and I'm more than happy to take any questions at any point if anyone has any. The senior leadership team, just in case you were not aware or have missed this from any other onboarding sessions, at the top we have Jack, Nick, and Lawrence. As far as our functional heads, we have Matt Davis for technical operations, Amy Huntley with the Constitution. Christian, of course, is the head of the open source office. And we have Lorenzo as head of our product teams. And Lorenzo is also the secretary for the product committee. Lawrence is the secretary for the board and for the budget committee. All right. As far as our functions here, some of you may be familiar with these as you've been integrating with Intersect most of the year here. So, of course, we have our technical operations team that is really down and deep with the developers. Our business operations, which is just making sure that the back end is all functioning so that we are getting the comms out, so that we are getting proliferation of all the development updates from the Intersect perspective. Strategy and architecture, that's of course everything that encompasses the website, the knowledge base, GovTool, hard fork, all of those different key tenants. Membership and community, keeping that community outreach up front. That also links in with the marketing and comms. There's a little bit of carryover between the two of those. But in delineation or separation, membership and community focus on bringing the community in every way possible. Marketing and comms, just making sure that we have those clear communications. Lastly is the open source office. As some or most of you may be familiar, of course, we directly work with the open source committee, and basically everything that we do is governed or overseen by you all. So if we are headed down the wrong path or we're not supporting you in the efforts of what the committee wants to see, that's something that you guys have direct control over, or at least an ability to speak to. So. All right, the structure here in the open source office. Up top, we have Christian, directly followed by myself, and hopefully in the future, an open source evangelist. So that's a role that we'd like to get to, but right now, we're not currently at that point. We do have a spot for legal counsel. It is listed as a part-time role, but the likelihood is that we will just consult upon that and use some different partnerships, as you see below, to provide that legal counsel when necessary. To fill out the rest of that bottom layer, we have our developer advocates. They will pop into this meeting time to time. Of course, we have Alex here, who's one of them. We also have Bernard, Uday, and Suganya, who are other developer advocates, and we do hope to continue with them and potentially add more as we move into 2025 and the future. As far as service providers, we don't have full contracts on all of these quite as of yet, but we do have conversations that have been happening with the CBIA. Christian, remind me the acronyms there.
Yeah, Cardano Blockchain Infrastructure Alliance. We're piloting it with them as a group to potentially be co-feature maintainers on open source projects with Core Cardano, etc. So once we have that finalized, we're going to reach out to other organizations listed and other providers, like we using Saganya to help with technical writing on Anastasia Lab projects, just to pilot the service catalog and stuff. That's what all this is connected to. The only official strategic partnership that we have a contract with is Bitergia at this time.
Yep. And so those other conversations, just to highlight a little bit, we have 45B now. That's something that Lucas is a part of here. So that's a focus around education, if I'm not mistaken. We have Awen, they're part of the music industry in terms of open source developments on Cardano. Anastasia Labs, they're working with wallets investing. And we're always looking for more to connect with. We actually just had a conversation with Andamio yesterday, another in the education and training sphere. And we look to continue those conversations as well. And so if you know of any of these organizations, or we should be giving them a spotlight on our YouTube channel or anything of that nature, please feel free to just drop those in our inbox or Slack channel or anything like that. And we'll make sure to get that content out here and up to the forefront for you all. So we'll move along from who we are to what is the workflow. So obviously we have quite a bit of suppliers and customers that feed into everything that is going on, or rather everything that we end up pushing through. That's going to come through a various alignment of different requests or escalations that come through. So we're heavily involved with things that are going on in TSC. We do have some touch points as far as things that are going on with the hard fork. We have our project support services, which I'm working on a form right now for us to release later this month. And all of that comes into the backlog of the work that we're doing. Again, that backlog is something that realistically at any point, y'all can hop on my calendar one-on-one and we can take a look at it, or most often you're going to see that presented here in the meeting as work that the OSO is doing. So as the open source program manager, that's a lot of what I manage at this point. Once that moves to the next stage, that's where Christian comes in, has some additional steps, and realistically, we kind of work together on this. But it's good for the graphic that we show some levels of separation. There's a lot of those conversations that I'll have on the forefront, and then that'll move into where we actually might start doing some work. And then we prioritize that, determine what the benefit's going to be. Again, we run that by the committee here, and we get that go, no go, push out the work, and push it through. So again, questions on this or ways for us to detail this, we are always open to at any time. As far as 2024, what have we done? What have we completed here? So we were able to establish the governance model and the structure. We've had a focus on implementing that, and that's a little bit of an ongoing piece, but I do plan to have that finished by 2024. As far as technical documentation and some baseline things, our developer advocates are able to help out with that as well, as Christian mentioned, with some technical writing. The committee early on was able to develop some open source strategy and policies, which is something that we help to facilitate. We have a number of different areas where we have some reporting for and on delivery assurance, and a lot of that comes with our partnership with Paterja. So we look to improve that as we move into 25. And then we have a consistent GitHub audit, which does align with the governance model and structure there. We did implement an open source pilot. If you haven't had a chance to review our Gitbook page, make sure that you do. Go ahead and take a look through there. We got just barely a passing grade when we came to our open source maturity. Basically, we were right on the cusp, and we had enough metrics to say that we met the passing, but not really. So it's a big focus for us in 2025 to make sure that what we're implementing on the back end here, things like our project incubation, project support services, that those are all going to further supplement and improve upon this maturity metric. We did have some strategy refinement as we moved through, and we're basically constantly refining those documents. At any time, any of the documents, policies, or procedures that we have, those are, again, always open to the committee to suggest improvements, changes, edits, anything of that nature. And of course, back in Q2 is where we focused on that project incubation. Q3, as you've seen here in just the previous slide, we've got a lot of strategic collaboration opportunities that we're focusing on. We're focusing on how we can also onboard projects into 2025, although we don't have many specific ones as of now. The first one that we did a test with is getting some technical documentation written for Anastasia Labs, and that was done by one of our developer advocates, Saganya. So our hope is that with the project support services, we're able to utilize the developer advocates and other developers that they are able to find to continue to improve that here. That, of course, maintains or improves upon that maturity, and in the end, helps out with the release management process here. Things that are still ongoing, because we're in 2024, is again refining those policies. We're looking to implement more inclusion as we move along. Our social channels, I would like to say, have been a big help in that. So anything we can do to improve those social channels, please do let us know. We are still looking at how we can complete and conduct the legal compliance audits and verify updates to documentation, but we've already got a security policy that's out there to be updated. That's our security council here at Intersect that's leading that. But of course, I'm leading that on the back end as part of that GitHub audit to make sure that everything is up to date for all repos under Intersect. And then trying to optimize that release management process. How can we make this faster, better, easier, smoother for everybody? So I know it's going over every point, but every point is important. It is a lot of work that has gone into making these things happen here for open source in 24.
And quick note on that, when we do that, we always we plan out our roadmap, and then we bring it to y'all to make sure that this aligns with the committee's goals, and y'all are able to direct us in any which path and or ask for progress updates, etc. So
you want to cover 25 then?
Yeah. So this is basically what it is. This may change over the next 2 weeks. It's just a draft at the moment, but essentially this is what we're planning to do for 2025. Which is high level, just scaling community engagement levels, more plugged in once Chang 2 and everything's live. It's all about community participation. So we want to elevate that. That's kind of where the paid open source model comes in with the budget process. So there'll be a lot of stakeholder management on that. And then we want to expand and do more of ecosystem project integration, i.e. how do we leverage what's already in the ecosystem, get more data-driven decision-making and or incubating projects, support, things like that. And then focus on the strategic collaboration side, which is where I'm hoping to hit the commercial adoption once we get Q1, Q2 put together and start making sure those projects and opportunities within Cardano to build, commercial adoption can thrive. And then continuous improvement and innovation. Q4 is usually always a reflection period and lessons learned management. So there's more of a breakdown slide deck that we can provide after this call.
Thanks so much. All right, so we talked about it a few different times here, but here's just a brief overview on the project support services. I won't read through this one as you all do have the slide deck there. But if there's something that you want to do to get more involved with this, or if you want to take a closer look and help us refine this just a bit more as we get started, please definitely reach out, and we're more than happy to include any and all feedback that you may have. As far as what we're looking at from the start here, marketing, community building, legal, again, is where that's coming in here. As that would be a support service, it's also something that we want to establish a partnership on first so that we have the appropriate support, and then we can extend what we've learned to others. Open source strategy and sustainability really touches on a lot of pieces of what we're doing, and the partnerships strengthen this tenet right here and allow us to actually provide that for others. Governance, product management, design, and training. So obviously there's been a big focus towards the bottom side of things, and everything works cohesively together to improve that product management piece. And so what we're able to do by solidifying this for the open source office is having done that, we then have the experience to engage other projects to move along in that in their own roadmaps and find the different successes that are necessary. So.
And this isn't to replace anything that anyone else in the community is doing or other committees. This is just supporting those things on periphery style.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. A little bit of the Discord server structure. If you're not in Discord, I absolutely recommend that you do so. There's a lot of different things that are going on. There's a lot of channels that are open to the public. So a lot of channels that are open to you as hopefully a verified member of the Discord. So there's a lot of things that you can at least just keep an eye or keep a pulse on, even if you're not actively communicating or participating in those other channels here. But for open source specifically, we have our update channel, we have our committee channel. There's no private channel for us here. It's just all one open channel. If there is anything that's private, that's typically discussed in our Slack channel. We do have our working groups, which you can dive into there. I believe right now we have the open source libraries. Oracles we just closed down because there was a lack of participation there. Project incubation would still show as open, but that's essentially going to be closed down as well as we push out the final docs here. I think I'm maybe missing one. Let me just check real quick here.
There's the commercialization working group. Will come to this committee to inform y'all about what the purpose they've been doing. Previous chair, Pat Sheridan's been leading that initiative with Saman, who's chairing the product committee. They're part of that open source model. And then there's an open source library working group, which is their complementary service.
Right. So essentially we'll be down to 2, but we can spin up other working groups as necessary. But again, the 2 for reference is the open source libraries and the commercialization. So our developer advocates were on there too. They have a water cooler channel, so you can always reach them there. They're pretty open and available, so you can reach out to them by email as well. They typically respond in, I would say, 24 to 48 hours pretty quickly. So as far as chair elections, there is a process and a form that was really originally suggested by the community advisory body. Previously in the committee meetings, we've talked about this and decided not to use that form. And that's why I've added these statements here where we're able to choose our own method of selecting a chair or electing a chair if we want to drop that S. Basically, I'll facilitate the election of a chair and co-chair in any method that you all deem appropriate. And that's something that we'll look to do as soon as we finish these slides here. So as far as the committee structure, I have a chair and vice chair or chair and co-chair, however you want to look at that. The chairs are going to be working directly with myself and most commonly Christian to set the agenda for each week. And the rest of you here would just sit as seats, but we do ask that, if you feel appropriate, definitely jump in to lead or co-lead a working group. If you have any questions about how the committee is operating or what you can or can't do, or just anything to make our processes better, you can always come to myself here again as the secretary. Voting seats, obviously anyone that is elected, and even if you take on the chair role, you still have a voting seat. Something important to know about the chair role: if you are the primary chair, You will also be expected to attend the Intersect Steering Committee meetings. So that is a separate meeting. It typically happens once a month. It may happen more often than that, but most of the time it is going to be left to just that once a month. And again, that's where you get a chance as the chair to go and sit and speak with other committees. Now, I'm not sure that this is the same for all committees, but I, as a secretary, do attend that meeting as an observer. So that's always something where if you have any questions or confusions or need something clarified, you can always bring that back to me as well. Roles and responsibilities is pretty brief. This can be updated in the charter document if we need to extend this further here. But basically, the chair has the overall say on what does end up on the agenda. I'm going to listen to whoever that chair may be. If you tell me don't include something, I'm not going to include it. If you tell me this has to be on there, it's going to be on there. Adam, go ahead.
Just a note, row 4 there, those should be seats, not chairs. And one of the responsibilities of seats is also usually helping to be the point person on special interest or working groups that fall underneath the committee.
Sorry, that was for secretary or vice chair? I'm sorry.
Or where you have all of us that are just regular rank and file members listed as
Right.
chairs, we're actually seats on the committee as voters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
And if you see a confidential proprietary tag on the slide, ignore that. Needs to be deleted. That's my fault.
All right.
Old habits.
But that's a basic overview. Thanks, Adam, for calling out the oversight there. I do apologize about that. But yeah, basically, whoever sits in these positions, if you're the vice chair, you may be expected to run the meeting if the chair is unavailable. That's really the only secondary capacity you should be aware of, other than attending and voicing your say in the agenda setting meetings there. Other than that, you mainly serve as a regular committee member here or seat. Again, the meetings are open, so anybody else that joins in here, we definitely welcome and appreciate any feedback or questions that they have to bring. But we will leave that to the chair and moderation by myself as the secretary as to how much time they have to speak and things like that, and if that's relevant to our conversations. So, all right. Not sure how this still ended up in here. Let me see if we still have more. I'm sorry.
By the way, on that slide, if you could just change Pedro to Lucas, it's really weird. Everyone just calls me Lucas. So,
Sure.
hi, everyone, again.
No problem. We'll get that fixed up for you. Okay. So, this is the committee workflow. I'm sorry. That's why I got confused because it looks similar to the OSO one. But basically, here you have the feed from the open source office, and then, of course, any members, vendors, or contracts that we have going. That'll typically come in and be the agenda set by, again, the chair, vice chair, and the secretary. OSC is going to meet just like we are now, review what's going on, and choose if there's something that we need to take a closer look at and make a decision on whether that goes or doesn't go. If it doesn't go, we have some different options to bring that back up to the situation, or it can just drop off once it's below this stage here. But once you all have made that recommendation, goes to an output and it gets shared accordingly through all of our channels. All right, for 2025, something that's not outlaid in those just basic defining points, our hope is to build out the paid open source concept here, something that we are still finishing up a white paper on. Basically moving through where a project is going to come in and funnel through Intersect. That will either go into either a product category or an open source library category, and move on to the commercialization phase where hopefully we can gather some additional funding. Different pieces here will, the hope is that as money comes out of the treasury and gets funded into these other avenues, these projects, that those projects are able to become fundable by other means as well, and the continual transaction fees continue to feed back to the treasury, allowing for us to have a consistent cycle. I would say most of this is fully developed as we have it so far, but if there are any additional things that you want to take a closer look at, we have a number of different pieces of documentation here to include our white paper. And Christian, unless you tell me not, I believe we can make that open to the committee for feedback as needed.
Yeah, if y'all have any additional comments to it, we have to do some it'll be available in the next few days. We had some contributors, so we're redoing the format. And rather than send y'all's thoughts a million miles away, we'll get you the actual final draft side of it. So,
All right. That's going to get us there pretty much right on time for what we had budgeted or planned here. Any questions on what we went over super quick here? I know a lot of it was high level. All right. Now, I know there's been a few people who have mentioned that they are not looking for a chair position here, but we do want to make sure that we fill a chair and a vice chair role. And I know this is a little bit interesting here because those such as Diane, Moritz, Robin, and forgetting the last one here, I guess Sandeep, and their fifth one. There's 5 seats that are going to be up in April. So if anything, one of them could serve theoretically as the chair. I know Diane mentioned she did not want to. Anyone that's here for a year, you can serve as the chair for the whole year if you'd like. In the MCC, because I'm also taking over as secretary there, they are doing a little bit of a stature where they have a co-chair that sits for 6 months, and then that co-chair becomes the chair for the remaining 6 months. And that kind of works in a flowing cycle. I think that's a pretty cool idea, but it's not something that we have to align to here. It's just a suggestion. Let me know what y'all are thinking. Simon, what do you got for us? You came in just ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious about the service providers. Like, what do they do? What kind of requirements do they have to have, and so on? Can you talk a little bit about that?
We can. I think that might be better for a separate meeting because we want to take care of the committee stuff here. So if that's all right, I can book some time with you.
Sure.
Okay. Sandeep?
Maybe we can nominate and then do a quick vote. It could be here or separately.
That is the hope.
yeah, to clarify, it's maybe 30 minutes extra every 2 weeks for the chair, just to get the agenda rolling. But mostly we do everything through the Slack or the Discord channels.
Can we do an action just to post this out of band because we don't have Robin and Moritz and some of the other, we don't have the full contingent here in the meeting. So let's use those out of band channels to get everybody that might be interested in standing so that we don't host a meeting or a vote today when somebody that may be interested wasn't able to step forward.
I think that works. That way there's fair opportunity, and then we'll conclude election next meeting then. Gives 2 week nomination period.
Okay.
And in the meantime, let's call Sandeep the interim chair, since the chair is currently vacant, so that we can already kind of like force him into that direction.
Sandeep, that cool with you?
I think that's fine. Yeah, but I will likely not be nominating myself.
Okay.
Understood. All right. So just to recap that, we have Sandeep as the interim chair. We're going to go over the next 2 weeks. Now, the thing is with the elections having come out, I'm getting some other pushes internally to try and get a decision a little bit faster. So if we do get some consensus async, love to get an understanding if we can just roll with that. But obviously, yes, I do want to open this up for those that, for whatever reason, were not able to attend today. Again, that being Robin, Nicholas, and Moritz as the 3 here. It's only 3 of them. I think we have the other 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. So I'll put that out async then. And y'all want me to put that in Slack or Discord? Is there a preference?
You can do both mediums.
We'll do both. No problem. All righty.
Last thing to notate too, I'm only a seat until April. That was just to help bootstrap the committee. So I will become just a number observer in the future, just to highlight that.
We might have to cover over then if that allows somebody that's currently sitting from the off-cycle election to stay until next October.
Dan, I think we have your Bitergia account. I'll add your personal in there as well to the Slack.
Actually, don't add another one. That gets just too confusing. I think I am in with Bitergia. That's why I couldn't figure it out. So,
Okay.
Yeah. that's
Just want to
better.
clarify.
Yeah. I was trying to
Okay.
remember how the Slack was working, and I have too many Slacks and too many Discords. It's just like,
I actually think I have both of yours on here.
yeah, probably. That's one of my problems, is that I should just stick to one in Slack, because it just gets wicked confusing.
What was that? Ryan from The Office invented Woof. It was something that sends you an alert on every single device that you own.
Oh, no.
Okay. Since we will move that, are we okay to move on to the charter text, or what else do you have?
No, go ahead. Yeah, you're up.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me make sure the link is there. This Gitbook is our Bible for everything that we do. So feel free to reference that. This charter has not been updated since the committee stood. And this is the oldest committee, so congratulations on that too. We started in August or September last year with just anyone who raised their hands to serve. The only one who was voluntold was Pat, because there's miscommunication, but that's a separate matter. We did stand this up as it was the interim state until we got to elections in Q3, which is where we are now. We will update this roles and responsibilities based on the slide deck, and then whoever we are voting in as the chair, vice chair. The voting procedures are pretty standard, so I don't think we should see any changes there unless anyone reviewing this wants to. But essentially, these are the core things we started off with. Is we are to update this, that the open source committee is now a decision-making committee that works together with the relevant stakeholders, especially when it comes to tech operations. So the best way to view it is product kind of determines the community interest, feature enhancement. TSC works on technical feasibility and the core maintenance, and open source tells everyone how development is to happen. And we also bring in the community participation arm related to that in the Intersect committee collaboration efforts there. And I think we're lucky because we have Adam and Johnny serving on both OSC and TSC, so we have a close partnership there. And then Tex being an observer. But we did establish early on that the OSC was going to be responsible for providing strategic direction and input on Intersect open source initiatives and policies, manage working groups that we spin up, or those who would like to have this committee be their home, as well as evaluate the working groups and the outputs of the OSO. We did have a standard agenda if we'd like to keep that with old business, new business. Old business is updates based on directions the committee is given via working groups and their agenda items that serve as mostly the agenda setting. And then new business is just anything that came up between sessions that wasn't accounted for. We've also outlined previously that the goals of the committee were 4 key pillars. Which is legitimacy, making sure that the Cardano open source project under GitHub is the source. It's the legitimate place that you can come from, and try to make sure that it stays legitimate in the eyes of the community. Obviously, also quality, just making sure the Cardano mainnet is secure and there's health associated with that. That's why we drafted a security policy for that. Sustainability for our core code has to continue to develop, and then just be a good open source citizen. Now this is the outdated stuff. What I think we should draft in, and this is just my piece, is what we outlined on the open source strategy. which is where we did the whole thought exercise. That was the original remit of the committee, is come up with an open source strategy. So we tied in all the elements from the previous charter, OSO roadmap, and community survey, where the mission and vision, basically the open source committee is for the Cardano community and its contributors. Our vision is we enable the successful development and evolution of Cardano as a community-led decentralized open source project. And our vision is we envision a future where the Cardano project is strongly led by a thriving community. In its open development is not dominated by any single entity. And then those goals or values that you saw in the charter are our key tenets that we're guided by. And then because of these three elements, what we're focusing on, this is the pillars of the strategy. We don't have to get that detailed, but this is where the committee is going to help us think of what's next. But what we were focusing on this year was the technical sustainability, a governance and decision-making model, and then making sure community engagement and collaboration continues. And that's where we got into specific deliverables for those and then the action items to accomplish those. But what I'm suggesting is we incorporate the top half of this into the charter. That way we revitalize it with the roles, responsibilities, and then any tweaks that the committee wants to do. But I'll stop talking. That's kind of a quick run through of where we were. Just kind of open it up for any thoughts or feedback at things that we should include inside the charter, etc. And I think I'm lagging. Sandeep?
Yeah, on this strategy, last time we had those discussions, these were derived from some of the points from the feedback from the community. And maybe in the second half of next year, or maybe earlier, we should revisit those feedback and maybe add or update some of those points because we limited the scope of what we want to cover from that feedback. So I think it is important that we keep that pace and revisit every certain interval that we are still aligned, and maybe we could still get new feedback in.
Completely agree. That's why if we, that's what we need to make after we get the charter finalized is what are the next pillars and the goals that we want to accomplish. And I was going to reference us back to that survey, and or we could conduct another survey just to ensure that we're still on track with the community interests. But I was thinking we could at least make these staple unless there's other points we want to add to the top half of this diagram. Johnny, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, my question, you've sort of half answered it by referencing a survey that occurred, but it was to do with the methodology and the channels of feedback and whether or not that's quantified and publicly available, so that people can see what the raw feedback data was and then how those pillars came about from it. So if you have this, you're going straight to it, which is wonderful to see. And then
I forgot where we posted it previously last year.
Yeah.
So I only know it's in this deck.
That's pretty cool. Is it in the open source committee Gitbook itself? Is there a link straight out to the feedback as it came in? Just as a justification for how these things came about. Like I always want to show sources where possible in a public sphere.
Yeah, let me go to my Google Drive real fast. Hold on. Because I did the original, because Intersect was new, I had to set it up in my personal drive. So let me just make sure.
I hear you, buddy. It's a lot of building. Yeah, and then how much quantifiable feedback did you get in that? I mean, I guess I better read the thing to get the answer, but yeah. It would be interesting to see that raw data, or at least, if it needs to be anonymized in any way.
Yeah. Or Sandeep, do you remember where the original file was that you collated it from, by chance?
I had some, and I think some of those interview notes were collected by you. So I can provide the ones that I have.
Okay. Yeah, me and Sandeep for like 2-3 months went around collecting stuff. I know we had a Google survey we sent and then personal interviews with certain people. It was a total of like 10 to 20 people that
Yeah.
volunteered at the time.
Because whenever we did our governance parameters working group survey, the participation level wasn't as high as we would have liked, right? It was less than 100 wallets, and multiple people voted with multiple wallets, right? So the level of mandate that is there would be questionable in a public sphere. But the big problem is, how do you get people to engage, right? And this is one of the pillars. So this is good.
Yeah. I think I have. Yeah, we had 3 responses on the survey. Let me share this with y'all. I think on this one. And then I'll try to go find the original notes.
It's all very chicken and egg, right? Because you're building a thing to get people to build the thing, to be part of the thing to build. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, my problem is I wasn't good at. This is before Tex was on board, so everything's in a drive somewhere.
It's all good, man. Just that's good. It's what I'm impressed by is you just have it available in most cases, so that's good.
So this is the original survey people did. I'll drop the link there. But I'll try to find the Google sheet that it populated into.
Also, I apologize profusely for not seeing it or filling it in.
You're good. Intersect was still just a concept at the time, mostly. This was all in November, December. We hadn't even migrated to repos at that point in time. So, and actually, I think that's when we just started even getting Adam to participate. I can't remember. So, I will find that and share it as soon as I can get to it.
But I think this highlights and backs up Sandeep's point of getting renewal of feedback and making sure that there's more of a mandate towards whatever pillars come up next, right? And yeah, I think one leads nicely into the other.
100%. And I think we could even still keep some of the pillars and just come up with new objectives to improve upon them. So
that's fair.
Yeah. And then there is the maturity survey to take into consideration too. We only did a sample size of 4 maintainers who were not related to IOG and had them go through that. I want to do it more wholesale and include everyone's points of view. And then, yeah, go from there.
And you said on that they only scrape through in terms of points for level of maturity, or am I speaking about something else?
It was we came up with a value rate system, so they would just go through and rate things on a scale of 1 to 5, put some additional feedback, and then it collated into a sample size. I got to go read through it, but we had a whole sheet that calculated the data and gave us, we were at a 59.5. That's how close to failing we were.
59.5. What's the pass mark?
I rounded up. 60 is the pass mark. So
okay, fair enough. And then again, is this something that could go publicly on this Gatebook, or is this not? Is this more?
Oh, the maturity pilot's already public.
I apologize.
And we have a whole video going through those results, and
I've watched a good few of Christian's videos, your videos. That I should say about how it's all working with the incentivization scheme and all that. So this is good. I will watch more videos and I will learn more things.
Yeah, no problem. We're here to abuse. This is mostly get the questions answered session. And I wanted to get y'all caught up to base before we get into the political factor of the budget, because that's also the next fun thing. There is a draft the previous committee helped collate. I guess half of the members in the committee were on that decision making, so it'd be interesting to get y'all's perspectives as well. Additions, adds, removes, things like that.
So is this a budget specifically for open source office related things, or is it the overall budget for all?
Yes. So this is specific in the remit of, so you have the core development bucket. Typically the committees there are going to be product, TSC, OSC. But we've done what we're considering like a 90-10 split with the TSC, 90% for TSC, 10% for open source inclusion. And that's where you get the maintainer retention program, the Code for Us model, support services to help with legal representation, different things to help projects that don't have those resources available. Where it's all aimed at education, dictating how development should happen, best practice, things like that. So, and then this committee the budget committee will be the ones who basically give you the number based on whatever the DREPs SPOs agree to, that the budget committee gets allocation from the treasury. That budget committee will then give that certain figure to us. We will work with the delivery assurance team to get spend and contracts put together. And then this committee has to report back to the budget committee how it was spent. And we have to have a review cycle to the community to let them know where things are going, etc. So, and then we'll be answerable to you because we'll be the ones trying to execute on all those things.
And did the community get any direct involvement in like voting for, let's say, what the 10% that goes to USO? No, I see Adam shaking his head.
Yeah, that's where you get the delegated representation with DREPs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yep. So the DREPs do get a vote, which I would define as community in some respect.
Well, no, pointing out that the DREPs approved the budget, but this committee already has been elected by the community to manage those tasks. So we don't need to throw everything back to an open public vote. That's kind of the point of having a committee above the large that's selected from and on behalf of the community. So we already are the representatives to manage that 10%.
I'm just trying to pre-mitigate for the kind of public outcry you might get, right?
There's going to be public outcry no matter what. If you've ever been a football referee, you know that you're going to piss off 50% of the people 100% of the time, and so you just go with it and you make your decisions and you live with it and do the best you can.
Yeah, luckily the biggest shock factor should be on the TSC side of it, not the OSC.
I was going to say, because they've got to decide what the maintenance schedule is, what the priorities are, what kind of projects are brought in. So like that has a lot more meat to it, I would say.
Yep. And we are here to help market the ideas for the budget. The paid open source thing, I've already kind of done some pre-warming on. I think we're at like a 70% approval rating, at least people I've talked to. The 30% or more about don't spend anything from the treasury kind of point of view. So, yeah. But I think the open source stuff, I think, is not so controversial because it is directly going to everything in the community and it helps that sustainability factor if we angle it just right.
My understanding of the open source maintainability thing is like it's separate groups of people that would be looking at the fully released code that came from the funding on the TSC side and then verifying and checking and doing testing and any bugs that they find, helping highlight them and that kind of thing. Like that would be the role of maintainer on the open source funded side.
Yes, we are having I'll share these docs with y'all for asynchronous. We just came to kind of a final draft. The contribution ladder, we let Alex and the community or developer advocates put that together and collate it. I just drafted initial thoughts. The incubation program, because that's going to tie us in with several committees as to what projects we let come under the Intersect umbrella. I'm going to put that to y'all now because I got some internal stakeholder alignment. We have a proposal. The project lifecycle for how we grade top level projects and the process through it. That's all been agreed. It's just now the acceptance criteria of how you qualify being in each piece. And that's what we're putting to y'all because that's the nitty gritty. And then once y'all are happy with an initial draft, we have to go to the TSC and then Intersect leadership and then final.
Well, that's the actual budget side of things, right? Who is eligible to receive money from the budget in order to be maintainers on a monthly basis, right? So you need to have a criteria for that.
Absolutely. That's where I put the two angles to it. You need something that evaluates the projects that come in because there's also, when they get under the GitHub, Intersect has a liability to them. So there's a CYA and a risk mitigation there. And then with the contribution ladder, you're also qualifying the people who receive funds. That way it's not just they get funding and run away type stuff. So, Adam.
Yeah, probably something that's particularly poignant specifically this week. I know, like a few weeks ago, we had talked about WordPress shooting themselves in the foot. But today, let's talk about the Linux Foundation shooting themselves in the foot.
The
And
Russian maintainers.
are we allowed to have Russian maintainers or Iranian maintainers of repositories under Intersect?
Okay, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Linux Foundation removed a bunch of Russian individuals from their maintainers on core kernel.
On core kernel. Okay. Yeah. No.
On core, yeah. And just because like worries around political issues around the world right now and sanctions.
Based just on having like a .ru email address and things like that. So.
Oh crap.
Yeah.
Crap.
I think that just dropped yesterday or something, or 2 days ago. So yeah, it was relatively recent.
Well,
but yeah, I know like we have Alex and everything. So and quite a few other good community contributors that come from Russia and other states. And the kind of idea was that we were building a better, different system. But when I know we have a legal entity based in Wyoming in the United States of America, that is probably going to determine whether or not people are allowed to formally work on behalf of Intersect or not.
Oh goodness.
Well,
my next call is with the Linux Foundation technical architecture. So thanks for the heads up.
Oh, good. Look.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
I'll actually see what.
Yeah, you might want to grab another coffee before that one. Then
Definitely. Or something stronger.
Yeah, well, a strong coffee, and an Irish coffee maybe.
Well,
I'm sure someone else can help you out there. Like, not the stereotype, of course.
I'll go ahead and sync with Lawrence as to what our legal thing is related to that going into it. But yeah, based on the tenant conversation with Charles yesterday, it's kind of like if you hold data, you can do anything. Doesn't matter your geopolitics. I'm wondering how enforceable that is.
Not true. He mentioned GDPR and compliance with countries' legal requirements quite frequently, and how the tenants actually supported the fact that we should be GDPR compliant and comply with state level governments. So I'm kind of getting mixed messages from Uncle Charlie. So,
well, I was thinking of Shaggy's question in particular about removing. Yeah,
it was two of the tenants specifically and explicitly mentioned GDPR compliance, which suggests in my mind that it's sort of setting up Midnight or something like it as a core part of the Cardano infrastructure, and therefore maybe core part of funding for maintenance on the TSC side.
Anyway, point being that let's get some clarity on that.
Let's not be political.
let's not get too down in the weeds in the rabbit hole. But I think it is important that if we're going to have to exclude people just for legal reasons from Intersect, then the sooner we can get ahead of that, the better.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think legal and Intersect want to do KYCs anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, and we can KYC, and I do know that the checks actually get written by the Dev Trust, which happens to be based in the Cayman Islands, and so maybe it's a non-issue, but we need clarity from the uppy-ups.
Yeah, I'll find out what I can.
All right, thank you.
Or I might just invite him into the committee. That's interesting, though. Okay.
You would love that.
I already started his day with a headache today. So. He didn't understand anything about the incubation programs and stuff, so I had to get him online before I put it in front of y'all. I'll share those links in the Slack. We'll go public on Discord once I get y'all's initial feedback and we give it to TSC as to just things that we're thinking. That way we have CYA and all that. And then if we're good, we'll do the nominations async. We'll post that in Discord and Slack. And then I will put together a draft charter on inclusion stuff and then put y'all's feedback on that. The things that matter mostly before next week is the chair nomination and the charter. And then all the other things will work too. And we might just... with Cindy, we might just do an asynchronous agenda setting. People can put all their thoughts for the agenda next week into the Slack channel, and then we'll use you to prioritize it.
Are we doing a meeting next week, or are we still on the bi-weekly cadence?
bi-weekly for the moment, unless
We're
everyone wants
on
to
a
do-
bi-weekly, but if we could do a meeting next week, I'm more than happy to set that up. That's going to push along the chair election piece, which is super necessary. Again, like I said, I've got some internal pushes that way. So seems like there was some agreement. So I'll just set something up ad hoc for next week, single session. And
Yeah, I think that works. And so everybody that's relatively newer to the committee knows we had dropped down to a bi-weekly cadence because we didn't really have weekly points of order and business to manage. So the thought being that we could increase cadence as necessary, but we didn't want to occupy too much time on people's calendars if we didn't have to, as much as we love seeing y'all every week. So.
okay. Now, just to clarify, how's the timing working for everybody? I know Adam, Christian, and Diane, this is a little tight in the morning there, but how's everybody else?
All good for me. Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, good for me
So,
as well.
okay, awesome. Sebastian, all good for you?
Yeah, I was completely cool with that. I was wondering, notifications will be via Slack or Discord, right? In case of extra meetings or something like that.
Correct. With the exception, yeah, with the one for next week, I will send it out here shortly. Give me about 30 minutes, but it'll be out there. So we'll meet next week. But after that, we continue our normal bi-weekly cadence. So we'll meet this week, next week, and the week after, and then just continue from there bi-weekly. So.
And I have a hard out now because if anybody's a World Mobile EN enthusiast, they're doing a presentation of their testnet right now in the private channel if you're an ENFT holder. So enjoy that. I'm away.
All right. Unless there's any other pressing thoughts, we'll see everyone next week.
See you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, well,
All right.